What's going on, guys? We are in my other shop. If you guys are familiar with the shop, this is where I've been doing a bunch of my fabrication work and stuff like that. And although I haven't done a lot of work lately, you guys will see that I have done some work to the Nova. That's right. The new Nova that I got, that was big block, and we took down in no mercy, ran 6.0, had a blast with it, and it's been a really good time. But something has been bugging me. The thing that's been bugging me is this. I have thousands of dollars worth of parts that I've collected. There's still some on the shelf back over there. I have collected for a Nova that was originally supposed to go on the gold Nova, but after spending some time thinking about it and really, thinking about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to move forward in the future, I realized that the gold Nova probably just isn't deserving of these parts, not as much as the blue one. See, the blue one is quite a bit lighter. I think with the big block in it, it was like a little under 3,000 pounds with me in it. And it's already 4-linked, and it's got a bunch of good stuff going on. So I figured the best thing to do would be go ahead and take those really good parts and complete the rest of this car. Why I say complete is because if you look, it still has factory front suspension, factory uppers, factory lowers, it's got factory steering box. Maybe that's not the factory steering box, but it's a factory style steering box. And yeah, that's just not gonna work. I have got a full PTS Fab K-member kit. Now that's supposed to drop some weight. This has already been trimmed. I think it still will drop a little bit more weight, but the bigger thing is that it's got the rack and pinion mount. I've got the rack and pinion mount. I've got TRZ upper and lower control arms. I've got TRZ billet spindles, which were like a huge thing for me because it took me a while to save up the money to go ahead and buy those things. So now that I've got all those parts, I've also got a Mickey Bobby long travel kit. I got a bunch of good stuff that will really help out the front end of this Nova. So at home, I went ahead and yanked the big block out. Just it was a little bit easier to do there and brought it over to the shop. Now it's time for me to start disassembling this so we can go on to our next steps. Now, I haven't really looked at instructions. I did talk to Nick at PTS Fab. He said it'd be really hard to screw this one up. I was worried about the placement. He said, don't even worry about that. You'll see when you get into it. So, the one thing that I do know has to happen is a whole bunch of this stuff on the front end has got to come off. So first things first, jag it up, take the wheels and tires off, and then I will start disassembling everything, hopefully in as little amount of pieces as possible. Like if I can get the lower control arm, whole knuckle over here, upper control arm, everything kind of off as one piece because the whole thing is going bye-bye, I think that'll be helpful. So I'm going to get to disassembling, crank the music up, and get to work, because then after we disassemble, it's time to measure, start cutting. Then there's a lot of cutting, and then I think there's some more cutting, and there's probably a little more cutting after that, and then we go into welding that in, and then everything else can start to go back together again. Make sense? Cool. Wanted to point out, this thing did work pretty well. Moroso Trick Springs. I think it's like a 3-way adjustable shock. The shock could have been better. But I still have like those springs on the Gold Nova. Great, work fantastic. But now I've got like 4 or 5 sets of those springs. So I'm gonna have to find something to do with all of them. But yeah, first side come off. I did leave the caliper hooked up there just because I didn't want to make a mess. We do have brand new, somewhere over here, Willwood disc brakes, lightweight race weight disc brakes. This thing, we're gonna save so much weight. But let me go get the other side off, and then we'll get to figuring out what needs to come off and start cutting. Because I think probably the steering stuff there for now, but yeah, once I get the other side off, we can figure out what I need to cut and get this K-member in place. Moving right along. All right. Good news, bad news, and then some more good news. Good news is all of this stuff, I don't know how much that weighs because I left the scales at home. We will scale this when I'm done because I know kind of what it weighed with me in it before. I did scale it beforehand. Bad news is it looks like our PTS Fab K-member here, there's just a little issue, which is not a big deal. I'll work around it. But like it's got these pads down here that are supposed to go up against the bottom of the frame. Well, that's anticipating that somebody else previously didn't slice off the frame here and shorten it up a little bit. So I think as long as the tube, the area where the tube touches, is still underneath there, we should be good to go. I don't think there's going to be much of an issue there. But to be on the safe side, before I get into cutting any of that, I'm going to go ahead and reach out to Nick PTS Fab, say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty sure that he's going to agree with me. Like, yeah, as long as that bar is touching the frame, you'll be fine. The other good news is that Nicky Bobby sends you directions. Step 4, remove control arm and get ready to start cutting. And then there's 3 more pages of instructions. So I know there are some things that I need to measure to cut, but I do know right off the top of my head, there's a few pieces that need to just get out of the way regardless. So I'm going to start on getting some of this stuff cut because there is going to be a lot of cutting up here. So I might as well not put it off for any longer and just get to start cutting on some of this. And then this way we can get the long travel kit. I also noticed that what may be an issue is this old mount here used to be, I'm assuming it used to be a motor plate for like the big block or something, but they've changed it down to the frame. So these weren't even used when we had the big block in there. I think they might be in the way, so we'll have to lop those off too. We're gonna have to cut all this off, cut all this. We're gonna have to make room for the spring, and there's a lot. So let me not waste any more time and just get to cutting, see what we can make happen. So last night I was able to make some pretty significant progress. I've got this side just about fitted, and we got our first look at what it's going to look like with the Alden long travel coilover in here, the MBI long travel mount. Now there is a problem. I've got these really nice brand new TRZ upper control arms. I got lowers and stuff too, but this little section right here on both sides, that's going to have to come out. It's not going to work with our long travel kit. I think I may be able to keep this bar here and the limiter there, but it's just not going to work that way. I've got the Nicky Bobby ball joint spacers and some extended ball joints on there. This thing is really going to be set up to travel like a monster. So I'm really looking forward to that. Got that working. And then I did talk to Nick at PTS Fab, and what I was thinking about that K-member is going to work. I was thinking a little backwards. I was thinking that the rear control arm mount here was going to be staying and the front was going. No, the front stays, only a little bit of it stays, but that entire rear, gone, get it up out of here, completely not necessary anymore. So I've got quite a bit of work to do. I don't know how many cutoff wheels I have left, so I'm going to try to work smart today and hopefully get this thing a little bit further along. As you can see, I still have this entire other side to do, and then I got to cut a whole lot out for that K-member. And then once I've got all of that figured out, this side, the K-member, the control arms, all that stuff, then I'll start putting it back together for welding. Then I'll kind of clean up. There's a bunch of dirt and stuff on this frame. We'll clean it up. We'll weld everything. We'll spray paint it. We'll make it look nice. And that should be phase 1 of the project done, hopefully. There's a whole bunch of other cool billet parts and a lot of nice stuff that's got to go on here. I got to do the steering rack, the rack and pinion, that whole thing. So there's still quite a bit to go. Let me stop jaw jacking and just get down to work. Guys have it. I'm feeling pretty good. So I got the control arms. Unfortunately, the most expensive control arms I've ever owned from TRZ. Sorry guys, they're gonna be upset that I had to cut them. So essentially we've gotten it to the point now where the ball joint is hitting this bottom piece of the frame here, and now I got a decision to make. I could go ahead and just cut out the frame right there and then box it in and all that kind of stuff, and that'll give us really a lot of travel. Or I could try to figure out what this thing is going to look like and how it's going to move, and then go from there. Because the next part of this is the K-member. I can't mount the lower control arms until I got the K-member in place. So this has to come clear off, and then this has to come off to about there with the mount. So I've still got a whole lot of cutting to do, and before I commit to cutting off that part of the frame there, and then trying to box it in, and you know what I mean, make it kind of structurally nice or whatever. Let's see if I can get the K-member in, lower control arms on, get everything hooked up for the most part, and then go, okay, do we need the extra travel that we would get out of notching that, or do we not? I mean, the whole point of this thing is max travel, have crazy amounts of travel, keep the crank center line over the pinion, keep this thing scooted and booted all the way down a shit surface. So, I don't know, we'll see. First, I'm gonna work on getting this done. I think I'm gonna go ahead and redo these brake lines, because like here, I'm hitting this brake line. Over there, I'm not so happy about the brake line, and it's running across this cross member that I have to cut anyway, so trying to move it back up into position is gonna be kind of silly. It's not really gonna look that great. So we'll see, maybe I'll redo those brake lines, but for now, I gotta take a new task of trying to go ahead and cut this old K-member, cross-member stuff apart and go from there. Alright, so after much cutting and grinding and welding, I think we're finally ready to put that K-member in. That K-member is gonna mount up to the front here. The rear goes completely away. I could have trimmed some more off the rear and got it like perfectly flush to the frame, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze on that one. But it's still something we can come back and do, because now that I'm looking at it and saying that, I'm realizing that the motor plate is probably gonna end up
right there.
Right there. So it would be really cool if the motor plate ended up right here, where I could just, you know what I mean? That would be some wishful thinking though. Now I'm gonna go ahead and try to fit this thing up there. It takes a little finesse. You gotta grind a little bit, put it on. Grind a little bit, put it on. Mostly getting around these pieces here. So I think that I've ground enough. Hold on, let me get my glove. No glove, no love. You know how it'd be. What do you think, Brandemonium? Am I gonna have to do all this all over again? Probably do this 30 times before I get it right. But yeah, so you see this fits on the outside. That's where this gets tricky, because this goes on the outside, like so. Because you use those holes to align it. Actually, a little hammer-dooski here. We'll buddy, we are danger close. We are very close. Like, super duper close. This is probably looks fantastic, doesn't it? This looks like a great time. You guys are definitely gonna want to do this. Yeah. Should be like me and definitely do this project. So close.
Do it, and definitely do it laying on the ground just like that.
Yeah, definitely. You gotta use all of your extremities to just kind of, I mean, we are close enough there that I feel good about it. Up here on this side though, we're not. And if I could be honest with you, I think it comes from this part of the frame here, where they like welded. You know what I'm saying? When they cut that off, like, you see how that, now the frame on the Nova is like, it's like folded over, but I think the extra shit they did there is legitimately the 1/8 of an inch we're missing. So I think if I just grind this down a bunch, we should be good to rock. Because once I can stick a bolt through these things, put some pressure on it, burn that thing in there, like burn it, we're ready to actually hook everything back up and like assembly, like put this thing back under all 4 wheels again. So let me do that now.
Back off one more time.
What?
At least one more time.
Chan. Oh man, it's hard out here for a pimp. When you try and get this money for a rent, we're so close. And it's important to get it right because the front suspension geometry can obviously be affected. Now, obviously, we've got all adjustable everything, so. Come on, Jackie Chan! Come on!
The tone changed quite
drastically.
Pretty quick.
Well, you know, that one's got a bolt in it. This one, not so much. Now, he did tell me, he's like, when you cut the center of the K member out, the old stuff, he's like, you're going to want to run a bar side to side, keep the frame from moving. But this, obviously, we had all of these bars in place. I don't really know because there's not... It's like... Honestly, I think just up a little bit would do it. Really, I think just taking some off of the back here would bring it up. Because as it comes up, it'll kind of curve in, and then we can, you know, for sure, Jackie Chan, Kung Fu, how about you, Sa? Like this. Alright. Trying to be a smart ass here, and just leave the bolt in it, and swing it down, you know what I'm saying? Jackie Chan!
You didn't want to do that, huh?
Huh?
Said I ain't want to do that, huh?
No, I don't want to do that. Now she's stuck in there. Well, you know. Hiya! These jokers here. What we got? Guess what? I'm opening up the bottle because it is time to weld. Now, obviously, these old frames, there's going to be a little variation to them all. I would say we're talking about frames from 68 to 72. This one maybe 73. You know, they ain't all going to be perfect. But we did manage to get 1 and 2 bolts in. So now that we got 2 bolts in, I'm putting some pressure on the rear here, you know, with the jack. And I'm going to go ahead and start zapping these bad boys in because it is going in its final resting spot. I might have to clean up the holes, these holes, just a little bit. I wish that I could say they were perfectly straight. I do. Just ain't. It ain't happening. Like, it's not the way that this is going to go down, you know. PTS Fab makes a really nice kit. This shit has been jigged. It looks great. This 1973 frame just ain't gonna participate in the same way. So I'm gonna get this bad boy fired up. I should be able to at least run a bead across here, across there, and then the back pads I can do. And then I gotta make a triangulation bracket, so something to go from kind of here to here, right? Bam, like that. Kind of add some strength back into this mojo. And then I can weld up under here. There's just a lot of welding that's got to be done. But I'm hopeful because once this is welded, like we can put the front suspension back together again. Which means we shouldn't be doing any more grinding, cutting. So my days of grinding and cutting are over. Which also means that I can like clean up the frame. You know what I mean? I can take some wipes, clean this frame up, clean this whole shit show up a little bit. I think do you want to get to the point where we're like actually see how much travel this thing has?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be nice.
We'd have to assemble at least the brake rotors.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal, but shout out Nicky Bobby. His kit worked great. Actually, I don't even know that we can get to that point tonight because you see how this bolt is longer than this bolt?
Ah.
I need to get 2 of the long ones. Let's just see where we can get tonight, and then, because I might have to go to the hardware store and get some bolts, because I don't know that I got any more of those extra long ones. But let's quit jabber jawing. Now, Nick said when you go to weld this, just burn that joker. He said just burn it. Burn it in there. Don't even just melt all the metal together. Screw how it looks. Just make a big gooey pile of ooey gooey, melt that metal together, make it happen. Just put some tacks in place, you know what I mean? If anyone's looking for a Christmas gift, a watch battery so that I can put into my helmet so it could actually auto darken like it's supposed to.
Stop blinding yourself.
Yeah, because your boy is going blind over here.
He keeps trying to use it like it's working.
Well, I ain't got nothing else. What am I gonna do? Not get the work done?
blind either way.
When they say a blind man welded this, they meant it. Look at that. We got a lot of good spots to get a lot of good tacks, a lot of good welds, a lot of good penetration. You know, I'm all about that penetration. See, this one here seems kind of, I'm gonna have to hit that one with a hammer a little bit. Yeah, because it's hitting that part of the frame there. Alright. Well, I believe we got her tacked up there. We should be good to start sending her on home. Well, here we have it. I have been working my little butt off and getting this thing all wrapped up, welded up, ready to go. We have got a set of Willwood disc brakes on the front. We got TRZ billet spindles. We've got the billet, whatever part you want to call that connects to the tie rod end, steering arm, TRZ rod ends. We've got the Alden coilovers. We've got TRZ upper and lowers. Nicky Bobby long travel kit. I mean, this thing has got gobs of travel. Actually, probably more travel than I think I can actually use. We'll find out. But we're kind of at the point now where I'm stalled because in order to get the wheels on, these studs are a little different. So I overnighted some lug nuts that will fit those wheels and be the right size for those studs. But now we're kind of at a jammed up point, right? Because the steering is mostly in, but I can't really do any of the connection to the rest of the steering until I put a motor in here. And I've got to redo some brake lines and stuff, but all of that kinda is dependent on where the motor sits. I mean, brake lines probably not, but it would be nice to know where the motor's going to be so I don't put brake lines in the way of things if I can avoid it. It would be nice. So this thing is outrageous. It is going to be something to align because I can already tell that we're like this, we're like this. So I gotta bring those upper control arms back in, probably get this thing to a decent halfway starting point before I take it over to the alignment machine. But now I've got to make a decision on what engine to put in this car. And that's the tough one because today is Monday night. And if we wanted to go to Dig or Die, we'd have to leave Thursday, which leaves me the rest of tonight and 2 full days to get an engine in here, get it running, make it work. I know what you're thinking. Just put the big block back in, it'd be easy. Meh, almost. Now that we get the long travel kit, big block headers will not work anymore. The head is like right here. It's danger close. And it could be a complete and total pile and pain. And mostly because I haven't sprayed that big block yet, I think I kind of want to refresh it. I want to know what we're actually working with. So there's some things about the motor that just ever since I've got it, I've been like, but it'd be nice to actually know what we're working with, refresh it, maybe do some things to help my success in the future because it is a really good piece. So now I got to make a decision. I also got to figure out how I'm going to do that because the engine hoist is at my house and I got to do all this, that, and the other. So yeah, I got some figuring out to do. But for now, check out how cool my long travel kit is. I've reached a stopping point for tonight. I mean, at this point, I still have to make the mounts for the motor mounts. There's still a bunch of other work that needs to be done. I've got to cut out the bolts from the rack because if you ever buy one of those right here, Summit Racing rack mounts, note to self, because I didn't know this, because I've done this to 2 of them and didn't know. I thought maybe I don't know. I thought there was something wrong with the bolts. Apparently they're stainless bolts and stainless nuts. I didn't know that. I never even looked at them. And when you go to put them together, they will lock up. And if you do not use anti-seize, they will lock up. So those locked up. The other set I had locked up, I thought it was just junk bolts. Posted online about it. People were like, no, it's actually stainless bolts and stainless nuts. And there's a nylon lock washer in there on the nut. So it's a recipe for disaster. It can go bad very quickly, and it went bad for me twice. And now I've learned my lesson. I'm just gonna go buy new bolts that don't have that problem. But I'm gonna make that. I did test fit the turbo kit that I made for the other car because part of me wants to maybe try to make it to dig or die. I don't know that it's gonna happen or not. I did bring over my other S300 turbos because what I would really like to do, obviously, is since I've got so much room back there by the firewall, is do a twin turbo kit with the turbos mounted back there close to the firewall. In the interest of possibly making it to dig or die, I don't know that I'm going to go ahead and build an entire turbo kit. This one is, I mean, there's hours into it, but at this point, if I am going to attempt to do that, every hour, every minute that I can save is going to be to the good, and I need to save it everywhere I can. So the turbo can go there. The problem with that, obviously, is that my full-size radiator cannot go there. So I would have to try to track down a Honda radiator. I know Dean James up in Jersey has one. I just don't know that I'm going to have enough time between now and then to try to get up there, grab that, get back here, figure out a way to make it all work, all that kind of stuff. I still got to grab my electric water pump from the house. And I have never done an LS motor plate and accessories before. So it was previously on another car, but it was already done, so that all the work was figured out. This one, actually, I've got the low passenger side mount that honestly, this one will probably clear. And that car, it didn't look like one of the low mounts is going to clear, but this car looks like the low mount will clear. So I don't know, there's still a lot to figure out, and then an ECU and wiring and a fuel system, and we got to steal a bunch of crap from the other Nova, like the turbo and the fuel system and the ECU, and I mean, I've got another ECU, I don't know, a lot to figure out. But for now, I'll let you guys revel in the beauty of this, and I don't know. We'll see. Next video might be a dig or die. Next video might be firing this thing up for the first time because we didn't make it a dig or die. You'll have to stay tuned to find out.